Welcome to our fourth and final segment of ARIS 2022. This one's called Reimagine, Reinvent. We're all for reinvention and creation. What's next? Okay, now we will talk about the art and science of repurposed structures. All the way from down under, please welcome the creator and creative director of the extremely popular YouTube channel, Never Too Small, Colin Chi.
Hello, hello, to you gorgeous people in the auditorium. How are we today? Well, thank you for the lovely response with silence there. Oh, you good? That's good, yes. Before I start, I would like to thank the organizer for this wonderful opportunity and also the privilege for me to come here to share with you my Never Too Small story. So a few good years ago, I bought my very own 37 square meters tiny studio apartment in Melbourne City. That's the size about 4 car parks. So like many of us, when we bought our new house, we're just looking for ideas and inspiration on how to design our own place. So I was looking on Pinterest, Instagram, Google, and I watched lots and lots of YouTube videos about small space design. And I realized that with my 14 years of experience in filmmaking, why don't I use the skills that I have to create videos about small space design and share with people online who are like me, living in small spaces. And of course, the best thing is to get some free advice, design advice from architects and designers whom I interview. Why not, right? Free advice, I loved it. And as I make more and more videos about small space design, I realized that maybe I have some kind of a superpower to not just influence and inspire people who live in small spaces, but also people who are not. And at the same time, I started to study and explore how can we change the way we live and interact with our growing cities. And boom, it totally changed my life. It became the passion and mission of my life. And it all started in Australia. The average size of an Australian house is 215 square meters, or roughly about 2,300 square feet. I know it's a bit hard to imagine how big is 215 square meters. So I thought I would ask my mother to help us to demonstrate that. And this is my mother, or you can call her Mama Chi. This photo is taken in the 1970s when she was still young and pretty. I don't mean that she's not young and pretty anymore. She just become more mature and sexy. And Mama Chi is going to be our model today. So if you were to put Mama Chi in a 215 square meters, she would look like this, tiny as a mosquito, in an average size of an Australian house. And let's compare to the Malaysian one, which is 117 square meters, roughly about that. I want to compare to Malaysia because that's where I was born and raised. This is why I don't sound like Crocodile Dundee, in case you guys are wondering. And we got some Malaysian friends here, I suppose. Oh, hello. And let's compare to the UK, just for the sake of it, 76 square meters, almost 2 times smaller than the average size of an Australian house. In Australia, we only have a population just under 26 million, not a lot, and we have about 10.6 million households, with an average of only 2.5 people per household. And 7 million out of the 10.6 million households live in those freestanding houses, or we usually call them the quarter-acre block homes as a nickname over there. And 1 in 4 Australians live by themselves, which is 25% of the population. And the single-person household continue to show the greatest percentage increase of all household types. Housing affordability has been a key issue in Australia for the last 4 decades, just slightly before I was born, in case you guys are wondering. Even though that's the case, in the last 5 years, we built some 1 million new dwellings in Australia. More and more people are opting for smaller homes because of affordability, but there's still a large number of them. In fact, majority of them decided to move further away from the city to the fringe of the city to continue to build their quarter-acre block dream homes. Rolling out housing estates attached to motorways require new infrastructure, putting a greater threat on our climate and also our nature. We are really a suburban nation. Alongside with Canada and America, this is why we build some of the biggest houses in the world. Studies find that suburban living is the worst for carbon emissions compared to city or rural living, simply because the suburban housing, they're typically much bigger, they require more energy to run, more materials to build them, more things to fill them, and heavily rely on cars to get around, to get a haircut, do their shopping, go to school, take their favorite mothers-in-law for nice dinners if their marriage survived COVID or the pandemic. Putting a greater stress on our climate and nature. Anyway, it's not working. And so, with our cities are growing, how can we adapt a lifestyle that can meet the environmental demands and yet not compromise our modern life? And my idea is simple. The way we can do it is to live smaller. Oh, that's the project. Anyway, okay, I go back to that. So by 2050, estimated 7 in 10 of us will be living in cities. And that's an extra of 2.5 billion people will be living in our cities in 27 years' time. As more and more people are going to live in the cities, it's going to put a stress on how are we going to house our growing citizens and to move them around our cities. Sorry. Oops. So with our cities, and then my idea is simple, is to house another 2.5 billion people in our cities, is to live smaller. By living small means everything becomes automatically more sustainable because we're going to require less energy to run them, less material to build them, and less things to fill them, and eventually become more affordable. Oops. And how can we convey this idea or message for people to make a change? Oh, is that not working? Thank you. And my idea is simple, and it's not original, it's just to inspire. I strongly believe that inspirations can be the biggest driver for any human being to take action. When people are exposed to new ideas, when they can see themselves doing the same thing, if not better, that's when they will take action. This is why I created Never Too Small YouTube channel to curate the very best small footprint design from all over the world for inspiration. Rather than telling our audience what they should do, we show them the best small footprint design, how it can enrich their life, and yet will have a positive impact on our climate and also on our growing cities.
Globally, there's a rapid urbanization happening. So between now and 2050, an extra 2.5 billion people are moving to cities. And because of this, the demand for compact, affordable living spaces is on the rise.
Designing small space is a very tailored way of designing, so everything needs to be carefully considered.
To be a little bit more experimental and live as you want to live is just thinking a little bit differently.
How you experience space, it's all about contrast, it's all about depth, it's all about layering of views.
We hope with this project they show the potential for the adaptive reuse of just common buildings, and it's economically sustainable. It saves on resources, saves on wastage.
If it's well designed, it doesn't feel smaller.
So living small seems like a norm in many Asian countries and also European cities. But it's still not very common in many other nations yet, and definitely not in Australia. When I first moved into my tiny apartment, I got some Aussie friends to come over and check out the place. And the first reaction when they walked in, they said to me, "Oh my God, do you live in a shoebox?" And they would check out my place and say, "Oh my God, your pantry is so small. Can you store enough food to last you for a week?" I was like, store enough food to last me for a week? Where am I? In Antarctica or something? And they'll be like, "You don't have a backyard. You don't have a swimming pool." And I was like, why do I need a swimming pool? I'm not a mermaid, you know. And they'll be asking questions like, where do you eat? Where do you sleep? Where do you take your shit? And sometimes out of frustration, I just say, I shit under the table. And they would bend over and look down and say, how do you flush a shit then? Valid question. That's why with Never Too Small, we hope to debunk the misconception of living small and to showcase the immense benefits of living small as well. With 2.5 billion users on YouTube, YouTube is the best platform for us to share our content with a global audience. Ever since I started in 2017, now we have more than 2.2 million subscribers with over 170 million views across our channel. And this episode of Never Too Small, published in 2019, a 24 square meters tiny studio apartment designed by architect Brad Swart in Sydney, has more than, that's a long sentence, has more than 17 million views. If you guys are interested to watch this project, you can search Boneka Apartment on our YouTube channel. Now, before I started Never Too Small, there are probably thousands and thousands of videos about small space design, and I watch a lot of them. But majority of the videos on YouTube that feature architects and designers, they can be quite academic and full of architecture jargons. And for someone like me who has no background in architecture, find the content rather hard to digest or even to understand. On the contrary, you have YouTubers just show you all the design features of the space, but without the designer to explain why they design the way they do. Many of our audience describe watching Never Too Small as a meditative experience. And there's a simplicity in the way we produce our videos. Our shooting style is purposely still. Our intention is to do justice to the design and to give our audience enough time to absorb and appreciate the design. We help architects and designers to tell their stories better by simplifying their language for the broader audience to understand no architecture jargon. And this is the power of storytelling through filmmaking. And we at Never Too Small are freaking good at it. We have featured a wide range of design, and we think it is so important to expose our audience to all types of design, not just a particular one that everybody likes. And occasionally, we will showcase some tiny house design too. And this is my favorite tiny house over there, and that's my dog, if you can see it. Some are designed simply yet cleverly with longevity in mind, and some are rather experimental. We have architects using their skills to adapt and reuse older buildings and to turn them into homes for singles, couples, and family. And some are using recycled materials or salvaged building materials with a touch of upcycling furniture to give the space even more personalities and characters. We have designed a focus on multi-generational living as well. And just like this family in Sydney, converting their backyard car parks into 2 small townhouses for their adult children to live in. We have designed a focus on community building, such as green spaces or even shared amenities, such as workshop, to encourage the residents to repair rather than to discard. We keep the projects we featured on Never Too Small under 60 square meters, because we know that's what captivates our audience's imagination, curiosity, and novelty. But as for city living, we strongly believe that there should be different types of housing options and sizes that cater for different types of households and people from different backgrounds. The beauty about small space design ideas is that you can always apply the ideas into a bigger space, but it doesn't go the other way around. Oops. Anyway. And with over 100 episodes published on our channels, our videos also used as video reference for many architects, designers, and also enthusiasts alike, and even students. I have a privilege to work with and learn from many architects or designers who are very prestigious or even very experienced or even urban planners. And for the sake of this conference, I decided to put the top 5 most mentioned ideas or even design tips from these experts on how we should design our future city apartment buildings. The first one would be don't over-design a small apartment. As small living is such a catered way of living, everything has to be considered. If you over-design a small apartment, it's going to be difficult for the future residents to make changes to the apartment to suit their lifestyle or even their own needs. In fact, instead of that, pare back the design and make it even more affordable for more people. The second one would be, instead of those tall, high-rise apartment building, high density, that looks like a hotel building and covered in glass, let's go for medium density apartment buildings that design with the biophilic principles, with bigger balconies, more natural sunlight, better air circulation, and build many of them. And the third one, forget about the swimming pool or the gym. Let's build some public or shared spaces for the residents to really can utilize them, such as the green spaces or the rooftop gardens. Not only they can grow their own food, but they can really build a strong connection with their neighbors and feel a sense of ownership of their shared space. And the fourth one is my personal favorite. Instead of those long and narrow apartments with just only one light source, let's go for wider and shallow floor plans. Not only we can put more windows, but we also allow the residents to be able to reconfigure the apartment easier in the later days if they want to change the floor plan. The fifth one, I don't need to explain more. Let's invest in renewable energy and sustainable materials. Since I started in 2017 as a side project, in 2019, Never Too Small became a company. And now we have a team of 8 people in our Melbourne studio. And we also have 18 others, team members and contributors from 15 locations from all over the world. And last year, we published our first book. It's called Reimagining Small Space Living, consisting of 30 projects with detailed floor plans, carefully curated by us and also written by us. It was the top seller for architecture book on Amazon. And if you would like to get your hands on this book, you can buy it on our website, or your local bookstore should be available worldwide. If not, worst case scenario, just get it from Amazon. This means I earn a bit less from that. And as more and more people are going to live in small spaces like myself, I'm always wondering about the furniture that's specially designed for small space living, but also designed in a sustainable way. So earlier this year, during the Melbourne Design Week, we organized our first public exhibition. We challenged 6 local designers to come up with 6 multifunctional chairs that's designed for small space living using only sustainable materials. What's lovely about this exhibition is that we get to not only meet our Never Too Small fans, of course, but we get to have so many meaningful conversations with so many designers, not only from locally, but also from overseas. And we have a conversation about how we should build or design our future furniture for our future city living, especially for small spaces. Recently, we have been featured as a top 3 YouTube channels for interior design lovers on the Wall Street Journal. And we also have articles written about Never Too Small on the New York Times Magazine, and also The Guardian, and etc., including the Thai publications called The Cloud. We have become a voice in advocating small footprint living and for cities and urban areas. From our recent survey on our global audience, 70% of our audience feel more positive about living in small spaces after watching Never Too Small video. And 40% of them considering moving into smaller homes after watching Never Too Small. And for those living in small spaces, 70% of them feel more inspired to make improvements on their own home after watching our videos. Now, I'm not here to ask you guys to cram 8 people into a 2-bedroom apartment, but rather to imagining the space that's big enough for yourself or even your family. Putting amenities and accessibility and community support in your list when you're looking for your perfect home. We don't need a big house to be happy. We need great ideas that can turn small homes into heavens. Oops. To make small living possible, the surrounding amenities, environment, and even urban planning play an important part. So in 2021, we decided to take one step forward. We created a 6-part documentary series called Small Footprint, featuring thinkers, planners, and designers from Netherlands, Canada, and Australia who are tackling the big problems our growing cities face. We explore why we shouldn't expand our city boundaries to achieve better social and environmental outcomes. We dive into what are the better social and affordable housing options. And can we plan a city that can thrive for not only human, but also wildlife and nature? And can we design a city that can celebrate culture, diversity, and inclusivity? You can catch this documentary series on our YouTube channel or on our website. And right after we produced and published our Small Footprint documentaries, another question sort of popped up. It's actually a very simple question. What about the materials that we use to build our new homes, new buildings, or even our future cities? And so we human harvest or mine some 1 billion tons of raw materials for our Mother Earth each year. That's equivalent to 2/3 of the mass of Mount Everest. That's a lot. And half of that materials go into our built environment. That's including our new roads, new bridges, everything. This is why we shouldn't expand our city boundaries, because each time we do, we're going to use more materials and resources are slowly running out. Construction industry accounted for 1/3 of our global waste and also 40% of our global carbon emissions. If we need to change the way we want to tackle our climate emergency, we need to change the way we build our new homes, our new buildings, and even our cities. This is why we are in production to create another documentary series called Wonderful Ways, which will be published earlier next year. Wonderful Ways follows 6 ingenious designers and innovators from Netherlands, the UK, and also Australia, who are finding new purpose in our waste, turning our furniture waste, plastic waste, and construction waste, and even our digital waste into new materials for us to build our homes, our buildings, and things to fill them with, and creating a sustainable circular economy. With this series, we hope to inspire designers or architects to explore new types of more sustainable materials in their project and consider where their future product will end up at the end of their useful lifespan. Wonderful Ways follow these 6 designers and innovators as they pave their way to a brighter future that's not only prettier and sustainable, but can be benefited by every one of us. If I was to put Wonderful Ways into one sentence, it would be, use the shit you already have to help build your new shit. I love that quote. It would be a stretch to suggest that small footprint living and sustainable design can eliminate all our social and environmental problems. But perhaps it can definitely make our future cities ecologically and economically more sustainable. We can begin small, think about the impact, and utilize the power of great ideas and great design. After all, it is our responsibility to lead our future generations towards a happier, healthier, more sustainable, and even more inclusive world to live in. And this is our mission at Never Too Small. Thank you.